What is up, Rad Potential YouTube? Welcome to today's video. I'm going to be installing a sewn adapter on the yellow RX8. Jumping right into getting this thing ready for its low compression, see how long it lasts, daily driver duty all summer. And I figured I would show you guys how this thing works. So this is what's called a sewn adapter. I got this from Rotary Aviation. This bolts on to the front cover of your engine in between your oil metering pump and the engine and allows you to feed nice, clean, two-stroke premix to the oil injectors on your RX8 instead of using oil from the oil pan that over time gets dirty, crusty, nasty, and ends up creating a lot of carbon buildup inside of your rotary engine, which can ultimately lead to premature engine failure in an RX8. A 13B REW engine. This is not an engine that is in your RX8. The engine in the RX8 is called a Renesis. However, this does share the same oil metering pump as the Series 1 RX8 Renesis engine. Unfortunately, the Series 2 RX8 Renesis engine is a totally different thing and you're unable to put a sewn adapter on it. The oil metering pump lives right here on your front cover. For those old school RX7 guys, you're going to be like, holy cow, this oil metering pump's huge. It has like an electric motor on it. And yes, the newer oil metering pumps are electronically regulated with this motor right here, but the pump itself, how it works, is effectively the same as the early oil metering pumps with regards to its overall function during your normal driving duties. So the oil from inside your crankcase, your regular black gnarly engine oil that you change, gets pumped up into the oil metering pump. From here, the electric motor or your throttle actuator, if you have an older car, tells the oil metering pump how much oil to release into the engine. The lines from the oil metering pump run up here, and on this 13B REW, there's only 2 oil injectors. So engine vacuum opens and closes these oil injectors right here and right here and squirts oil into the housing, effectively your combustion chamber of your rotary engine. Over time, you are going to burn oil from your oil pan. So when you drive your rotary engine car, and this is why these cars weren't very successful, because normal cars don't burn oil, right? Piston engines, when they burn oil, that's bad. But from the get-go, Mazda had this designed like this. So over about 2,500 to 3,000 miles, if your oil metering pump system is functioning correctly, you're going to be about a quart low on oil when you need to change your oil every time from when your car is brand new. It's just the way of a rotary engine as it came from the factory. This is still, the oil metering pump system, a very effective way to get oil inside of your engine. You've probably heard of people pre-mixing two-stroke oil in the fuel of their RX-7s or RX-8s or rotary trucks, and that accomplishes the same thing. That gives the combustion chamber oil or lubrication while the engine is running by including the oil in the fuel that then sticks to and adheres to all the surfaces and you get lubrication. That's not to say the oil metering pump system is bad. Over time, oil metering pumps can fail. These little oil metering pump lines right here can crack and you might think you just have an oil leak and be driving your car for a couple thousand, maybe 10,000 miles, and you're not getting any oil to one of the chambers. And then you end up with one rotor that has low compression. That's exactly what happened to my green RX8 back here, and that's why the engine that was in it when I bought it, it ran okay, but it only had 60 psi on one rotor, 90 on the other. When I took it apart, we had a broken oil metering pump line on the top of the block, disguised as just a leaky oil pan. So where does this sewn adapter come into play as far as improving this system? The sewn adapter bolts between the oil metering pump and the engine. It has this little nipple on it right here. This nipple you will run to, in my case, a coolant overflow tank that I'm repurposing for an oil metering pump tank. And you will feed premixed, nice, clean, beautiful premix oil straight to your oil metering pump. This plate also blocks off the oil feed from your engine, so you will no longer be burning oil from the oil pan in your oil metering pump, and your rotors and housings are going to see lovely, clean, crispy, less carbon buildup from crappy oil getting used to lubricate your apex seals, side seals, corner seals, rotors, housings, the whole deal. So overall, This is a big upgrade. I personally have never ran one of these on any of my cars before, so I'm excited to try to install this on the yellow RX8. Aside from the fact that the oil metering pump is buried down in there, we've got an air box, a battery in the way, a whole slew of stuff. It might be easier to do this from the bottom, so I popped the hood on my green car and came over here and looked. As a matter of fact, you can see the oil metering pump chilling right there. The RX8s versus that REW I just showed you, these have 4 lines coming off of them, 2 injectors per housing, and we're going to somehow snake this thing up in there. I can see about where it's going to go. The piece, I believe, is going to reside something like the sort like that, except between the oil metering pump and the engine. So I'm going to go ahead, jack this thing up in the air, pull the battery out, pull the air box off. I would rather install this from the top because I'm going to have a bunch of light. Taking this stuff out of the way isn't going to take that much time. And then if I need to crawl up underneath it to aid in the install, we'll do that. Like I said in the previous video, when we installed the ignition coils on this car, y'all are going to get super familiar with pulling an air box out. Disconnect our battery. Oh, that's right. There's the dumb side bolt over here that's under this coolant line, isn't there? Oh, sounded like that hit the ground, though. Literally 3 minutes, we can now see our lovely oil metering pump sitting right down here. So there should just be 3 bolts that I need to take off, 10mm head bolts. The oil metering pump will separate from the front cover. We'll have to put the new gasket and the zone adapter in between it, and then the kit comes with longer bolts to put it back on. 3 bolts are out of the oil metering pump. It should just slide right back. It's going to get a little tricky with these coolant lines here and keeping the oil metering pump lines hooked up as they're supposed to be. Alright, so I'm holding the oil metering pump up there. You can see that that is the side of the pump that faces the engine. So this is where the adapter is going to go. Make sure that the drive paddle or this like pin here is lined up with the zone adapter. And then there's a gasket for the zone adapter that goes on the block, and we'll put this back on. Of course, I bloodbathed the ground right where I needed to lay. Just drain that little bit of water out of there. Let's just say this, guys. I'm already frustrated enough that I would almost already have taken out the engine by now. These engines don't take that long to get out of here. Oh yeah, that was a huge win. Just 2 more bolts to install. A keynote that is not in the directions of installing your zone adapter. You will need to remove the coolant line that I've removed and reroute your oil metering pump plastic lines from one side of that coolant line around to the other. If you leave them there, you will probably run the risk of cracking one of those oil lines when you're putting the pump back on. So just note, pull that line off, you're going to make a mess of your floor and really everything down there. Put the oil metering pump lines on the other side, put the coolant line back on. If you do it fast, you might not make a huge mess. The next part of this whole situation is that we need to feed that zone adapter fresh premix from something. From the factory, the RX8s have a ginormous washer fluid reservoir back here, and we're going to be removing this washer fluid reservoir in favor of a smaller one. I'm going to be installing my premix bottle back here. So we'll just pull this out of here. Trust me, if your RX8's as nice as my yellow one, you never spray down your washer fluid thing anyways, because you wash your car all the time. So we just gotta unplug this, and if I remember right, when I take this little line off, it's gonna leak some out of here. So let's not let it leak. Tell you what, I used all my good luck working on the 4-rotor and the rally car this week, because today I'm just getting dirty, I'm making a big mess, and working in these tight confines, a little bit frustrating today. So, right here, I have some regular old silicone tubing. I'm going to run this down, nicely routed through here, and we're going to put this on the zone adapter. Now we've got the hose, so we're just going to pour premix into here, and that's going to be, just kidding, not going to be it. I'm doing this on, let's just say, not buying the whole giant super sexy kit for your zone adapter. I just bought the adapter piece, making everything else myself. So this piece here is a universal coolant overflow tank. You can get this at a parts store for 10 bucks. Super cheap, literally. So I've got this tank. I'm going to be mounting the tank right back here where the washer fluid reservoir went. I'm just going to put one bolt in it right into the firewall. Call it a day. And I'm going to hook up the drain from the tank to this lovely silicone tube right here. Just jam this on here. Ooh, just jam this deal on here. You know, this silicone stuff, you can really get it to expand. Oh yeah, there we go. Nice and, oh, popped off. It's a two-hander. Nice and tight on there. Ready to rip. Eventually, guys, I'm going to hook up another washer sprayer bottle. I just haven't decided how much room I needed for it yet. I wanted to put this in here first, and then we'll put another washer fluid sprayer back here and wire it up. But literally, we just go like that. We're going to take one of these old bolts from the stock washer sprayer. Give it a couple of ugga-duggas. And now we've got gravity feed all the way down to the Sone adapter right there. This lovely blue line. So this is going to be pretty low pressure. It's not really like we run 100 psi oil pressure through this deal. So literally just some vacuum line dialed. You know, it's the nicest thing in the whole engine bay right here. Coolant bottle, 10 bucks. Oil metering pump. But then you gotta spot those sexy LS coils down there too. So turning this little RX8 into a fun little 70 psi compression daily driver, we're going to see how long she lasts. Everything's good. Basically now, we're just going to top that thing off with some premix, fire this thing up, make sure it's not spewing oil out down here, and then airbox battery. Or I guess we'll have to put the battery in before we fire it up, but battery, airbox, fire it up. Make sure everything's good. We'll be able to see the oil running down that line. That's one of the things I just wanted to have. Didn't want to run black line. I'd like to be able to make sure that the oil is getting there. It's not some weird thing happening. Who knows? But it's the same thing. It's kind of nice with the oil metering pump lines themselves on the engine. You can see when you're running crankcase black, dirty, nasty oil, you can literally see the black, dirty, nasty oil running through the line to get into your engine. Sone adapter installed. Let's fire this deal up. Guess we can consult the directions. Let's see. Did we follow our directions to the hook up oil, insert M6 bolts and torque in accordance with Mazda manual requirements for metering pump installation? Torqued. Hook up oil feed line to hose nipple on adapter. Hooked. Run oil flow test as described in Mazda manual. I have no idea what that is, but I don't have a check engine light for an oil metering pump, so we're just going to run it. I guess I could look that up. Maybe one of y'all could look it up. Tell me how to do it. Do it in the next video. 70 psi compression, RX8 startup, cold. Mint. Alright, so I don't really know how fast it's going to be that we're just going to like start seeing oil run out of here. Doesn't look like I'm leaking anything crazy, you know? There's definitely oil in the line. So now, the moment of truth is, over the course of the next few months, over the course of the next month, I'm going to be driving this thing as much as I possibly can. And we're going to see how many miles we put on it. We're going to see how many miles this 70 psi compression engine lasts. I'm totally not doing anything by pumping this jack because the jack doesn't have any pressure on it. Okay, let's see. Multitask. Jack up, jack. Look on ground. No major leaks. I will need approximately that much more coolant. Drop car on ground real fast, NASCAR style. Nailed it. Well, why are we gonna sit here and listen to this thing? couple cold revs. Everybody always asking me, how can you shut your RX8 off so many times and it not flood whenever you start it and it's not all the way hot and it's not all the way cold? Well, honestly, I just like to live dangerously and turn my cars off. It's really not the best thing for them. You do, run the risk of it flooding and not starting. But I got my brain up here and I know how to deflood an RX8, so I just kind of, live dangerously. But anyways, what I was getting at before we were so rudely interrupted by myself turning off the RX8 cold is that I'm going to be driving this thing over the next month. So just like it is, coils, we're going to let this thing self-learn, a whole bunch of stuff. We've got exhaust bits coming for this and a cold air intake coming for this. We're going to be installing that stuff probably right after the Tail of the Dragon Deals Gap Rotary Rally, which is April 12th. So that gives us about a month from now of driving this car. We'll see how many miles I can put on it, ripping around town and, burnout miles, right? But that's going to let us see how this thing's been working. It's going to be all learned up. We're going to take it back to the dyno with Ernie at Failings Performance after Deals Gap Rotary Rally to test all of this stuff. I'm really curious. I've never ran a car with a zone adapter before. I've always just pre-mixed my stuff and deleted the oil metering pumps, or just pre-mixed in addition to the oil metering pump and make sure to change my oil. That's really what I've been doing with the green cars. Is I have been running renewable lubricants. There are 20W50 in that car, but previously I ran Valvoline VR1 2050 as well, which is a synthetic oil. But if you get the combustion chamber super hot, I was literally just taking the car to the track, changing the oil every couple times, I never noticed an excess of carbon buildup on my plugs running that synthetic oil that hard. Okay, so the reason you want to install this zone adapter is so that you can run a much better crankcase oil or oil pan oil in your RX8. What this does is now you can run a full synthetic. It won't be burning it, so you won't be getting all the gumminess and carbon buildup from not having a hot enough combustion chamber to burn that synthetic oil from the oil metering pump system. So the zone adapter lets you run premixed straight, good lubrication, good clean burn. Now you can run quality engine oil in your car. So over the next, like I said, month, we're going to be looking at how these plugs look. We're going to be looking at fuel economy. When we go back to the dyno, we'll recompression test it. I don't think it's going to just magically build more compression, guys. This engine has been installed in this car for probably 20,000 miles, 15 to 20,000 miles. So it does have some miles on this rebuilt engine. I don't think it's just going to magically make more compression. So we're going to run it until it breaks. That's the goal. Literally, we're just going to see how long this engine lasts. It might last way longer than we think, and it just might be slower and make less power, but we're going to do everything we can to keep this engine alive as long as possible. So, zone adapter installed. I'll keep you guys posted. Subscribe to follow along to the old lightning yellow RX8. Our endeavors keeping this low compression engine ripping. I'm excited to learn how the zone adapter affects the inside of the engine and just see what everything looks like. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Drop any questions in the comments below that you have. If you have specific questions in regard to your car and issues you're having, go check out the Rad Potential Patreon. That's where I make videos answering people's questions, whether it's about RX8s, RX7s, building engines, tolerances within an engine, what's the best port for this, or these are my goals, or if you just want to support the channel, definitely go check out the Patreon. I would much appreciate it. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching the videos. We'll see you in the next one. Keep it rad. Y'all be like, Eric's car, so they always just start hot, cold, or whatever. And I'm going to be like, dang straight they do. Rotary wizardry going on over here. How about that? Shut it off cold, 70 PSI. Fired it up cold, 70 PSI. Fired right up. Pretty stoked. This is what I got going on this week, guys. I was working on the 4-rotor. I got a bunch of stuff done on it, but I'm not quite to where I want. Trying to make those videos pretty sick. Aside from the funny one, putting the exhaust on about tubes. But it's rally week, guys. Rally car's running, ready to go. We're ready to go to 100 Acre Wood Rally this week and shred the old Dodge Colt. So get excited. It's rally time. Look at that. The old lightning yellow test mule. Mint.